I would have never in a billion years, like, if you had told past me,
I would have never believed this in a million years because it sounds like something people would laugh at in a comment section. If you told past me a women's basketball player would be outpacing the biggest active NBA stars in a major global sports market, I would have said you're doing too much.
that a female basketball player would be wiping the floor with the biggest stars in the NBA, I would have never believed you.
But here we are, and the people who kept praying for the Caitlin Clark effect to fade are not going to like what comes next. Because the truth is, this thing isn't cooling off. It's building. It's spreading. And if you read the latest numbers the way investors read them, Caitlin isn't just popular right now.
Man, I wish these things grab better. I wish they had a different mold on the bottom of them. Like, were you super involved in that process as well?
She's turning into a long-term business engine that companies are planning around. So let's get into what just happened, because this news is not normal, and it perfectly explains why Caitlin can dominate conversations even when she isn't playing. This isn't about the WNBA schedule.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously I'm pretty picky about what I wear. I like a certain 2 Kobe models.
This isn't about one highlight clip going viral. This is about cultural pull, the kind that shows up in places you can't fake. Here's what set this off. PSA, the company that grades trading cards and basically sets the standard for collectibles, released its 2025 data, and Caitlin Clark finished as the #1 most collected active basketball player in the world. Not women's basketball, not WNBA, basketball, period. According to the numbers you're being shown, she beat LeBron James.
So I knew whatever I was going to put in my own shoe, it need to be the equivalent of that technology or even better. And it's going to be even better. I'm not going to say exactly what it is.
The face of the NBA for 2 decades. The guy with the rings, the MVPs, and the all-time scoring headlines. That's the type of thing that makes people sit up straight, because this market isn't built on hype alone. People spend real money here. They send cards in, pay grading fees, wait through processing, and then hold or flip the value depending on demand. When someone climbs to #1 in that world, it means collectors aren't just watching. They're investing their own cash and betting her relevance lasts. And PSA didn't just drop a top 10 list and call it a day. They released a map showing the most graded active athletes by state, and when you look at the basketball category, it's wild. The way it's being presented, it isn't even close. It's basically Clark country across most of the United States. People are sending in Caitlin Clark cards to get graded more than anyone else. And that's not a vibe or an opinion. That's behavior. It gets crazier when you look at the detail buried inside the bigger headline. PSA's data says Caitlin had 3 of the 10 most graded cards overall in 2025 across all sports, not just basketball. That matters because it means she's not only competing with NBA players, she's being stacked against athletes in every major sport with decades of built-in collector culture behind them, and she's still landing at the top of the pile. Now add the timeline and it starts looking even more unreal. In 2024, Caitlin was reportedly ranked 6th among the most collected basketball players. In 2025, while missing significant time, she jumps to #1. If you're trying to understand what momentum actually means, it's this. The attention didn't pause because she wasn't on the court. It kept moving anyway, because the machine around her isn't only built on games, it's built on identity. PSA President Ryan Hogue reportedly said this kind of momentum in the hobby is usually only seen with the most elite athletes. That's a huge statement because trading cards don't reward nice stories. They reward demand. When collectors chase someone this hard, it's because they believe the story is going to keep growing, not shrink. And that's why the most powerful people in business are starting to position themselves around what's coming in 2026. Not because they're fans, because they're reading signals. Because this doesn't look like a trend anymore. It looks like the start of an era. Now here's where Nike enters the chat, because this is the part that connects collectibles hype to corporate money. Nike has been dealing with real pressure, and the public narrative has been rough. People have been saying the brand looks slow, that innovation has stalled, and that newer companies have been stealing attention and market share. Whether you agree with that or not, the point is the perception got loud. And then the Caitlin Clark signature shoe situation turned into its own mini-storm. Fans wanted her shoe in 2025 and it didn't happen. Aja Wilson got her signature shoe first, and to be clear, Aja is an all-time talent and absolutely earned it. But fans kept asking a different question. Why is the biggest draw in women's basketball not getting her signature product when she's clearly the one people are begging to buy? Nike could blame production timelines, internal schedules, rollout strategy, or any of the normal corporate reasons. But online, none of that mattered. People treated it like Nike fumbling, like Nike moving too slow, like Nike not understanding what the market is screaming at them in real time. But while fans were arguing, money people were making moves. Reports say that on December 22, 2025, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, bought 50,000 shares of Nike stock. Now let's be real. Tim Cook does not need to gamble. Someone at that level can park money safely forever and still be set for life. So when a person like that buys into a company that's been getting dragged publicly, it signals confidence that something is changing. And then you get another signal that hits even harder. Nike's own CEO, Elliott Hill, reportedly bought around $1 million worth of Nike stock near the end of 2025. That's not a casual flex. That's not support. That's a bet using real money. CEOs don't buy like that unless they believe the next chapter is going to look different than the last one. Because here's the simple logic. If you know your company is headed downhill, you don't load up on stock. You protect yourself. You wait. You minimize risk. So if the CEO is buying, it tells you he believes the rebound story isn't just marketing talk. He believes something is going to move numbers. During a business call, Hill reportedly revealed Nike's North America business rose 9% to $5.63 billion in the last fiscal quarter. A 9% jump after a stretch of negative headlines is not nothing. It suggests momentum is shifting, and the big question becomes, what is Nike using as the rocket fuel? This is where Caitlin's name keeps coming up, because Nike is building around her in a way that looks louder and more intentional by the month. The Christmas commercial, the From Anywhere tagline, the celebrity-heavy rollout, the positioning, this is not Nike being casual. This is Nike trying to attach her to a long legacy of athletes who didn't just sell shoes, they moved culture. And then Caitlin goes on the New Heights podcast with Travis and Jason Kelsey on December 31st and drops a line that made sneaker fans and investors perk up immediately. She says, "There's going to be new technology just for Caitlin," and that's the kind of sentence that turns into a headline fast. Because if Nike is building new tech around her signature line, that means they're not treating her like a side project. They're treating her like a pillar. Now, the shoe drop is expected in 2026, with the exact date still unclear, but the direction is obvious. Nike is stacking the runway. They're building the story. They're setting the stage, so when the product hits, it feels like an event, not just another release. That's why those CEO stock purchases matter in this conversation. It's not that Tim Cook is betting on Caitlin. It's that high-level money is betting Nike has a catalyst. And Caitlin's signature launch looks like one of the biggest catalysts Nike can lean on in women's basketball right now. Now let's talk about what happens when Caitlin actually steps back on the court again, because this is where the sports media side and the business side collide. People keep trying to act like the league's growth is this balanced, evenly distributed thing, but the ratings history doesn't support that. When Caitlin plays, the numbers jump. When she doesn't, the numbers cool. That doesn't mean other players don't matter. It means star power is doing what star power always does. Let me paint you a picture of what happened in May 2025. Caitlin suited up for her first game in 6 months, a preseason exhibition against a Brazilian national team. Not a playoff game, not a finals matchup, a preseason tune-up. And it sold out Carver Hawkeye Arena in minutes because that's what her presence does. It creates urgency. It got so much attention that ESPN decided to televise it nationally, and around 1.3 million people tuned in. Again, preseason exhibition. That number is not normal. It's not nice. It's a billboard screaming that her audience exists outside the typical bubble. Now, compare that to the WNBA Finals averaging around 1.5 million viewers. You start seeing why networks are treating Caitlin games like must-carry content. And yes, ratings measurement has changed with newer methodology that captures more streaming devices, which complicates comparisons. But even with the measurement caveats, the direction is clear. Caitlin games pull massive audiences. So what happens in 2026 when she returns with a full offseason of hype behind her, the Nike shoe story heating up, and the return from injury narrative stacked on top? It's going to be huge, and pretending otherwise is just ignoring how sports audiences behave. Her first game of the 2025 season against the Sky drew 2.7 million viewers under the older methodology. With the newer measurement system, with more national TV windows, and with the marketing machine pushing hard, it's not crazy to think that her return game could be one of the biggest regular season women's basketball broadcasts ever. I'll make a prediction right now. Her return game clears 5 million viewers. If you think that's too high, tell me if you're taking the over or the under, because this is exactly the kind of moment that breaks normal expectations. Networks aren't going to risk missing those numbers. Sponsors aren't going to ignore that kind of reach. And casual fans aren't going to skip the first game back storyline when it's everywhere. That's the real point here. Caitlin isn't just a great player, she's appointment viewing. She's you gotta see it live energy. She's the reason people who don't watch the league suddenly know tip-off times and arena names. And when you stack that against the trading card data, it paints a picture that's bigger than basketball. Collectibles domination while injured. Check. Number 1. Most collected active basketball player. Check. Nike stock buys by major executives. Check. Nike's own CEO betting big. Check. A signature shoe with new tech reportedly built around her? Check. When all of that is happening at once, you're not looking at a normal sports star arc. You're looking at a cultural figure whose influence spreads into multiple markets at the same time. That's why people keep saying she doesn't need the WNBA to dominate. It's not disrespect to the league. It's recognition that her brand has reached a point where it can drive attention even outside the game schedule. Now, does this mean the WNBA doesn't matter? No. The league is still the main stage, the place where legacies are built, the place where championships live. But what this proves is that Caitlin's audience is not limited to basketball purists. It's broader, it's mainstream, and that's why sponsors treat her like a centerpiece rather than a nice addition. Also, let's be honest, the people who kept insisting her momentum would disappear if she got injured were wrong. The collectibles numbers didn't dip. The talk didn't stop. The hype didn't evaporate. If anything, it hardened, because absence creates anticipation when the audience is already invested. That's what separates a hot moment from a lasting phenomenon. A hot moment fades the second the person isn't visible. A lasting phenomenon continues moving even when they're off screen. Caitlin's story is moving like the second one. So when people say 2026 is going to be her year, it's not just fan talk, it's money talk, it's corporate talk, it's market talk. Because you don't get CEOs buying stock, a global brand building signature tech, and the collectibles industry getting flooded with your cards unless multiple groups are betting that the next wave is coming soon. That's the part a lot of people miss. Fans can argue all day in comments, but markets don't move on vibes alone. When you see high-level executives putting real money behind a company, at the same time, that company is clearly ramping up around one athlete, that's not random. That's people with access to research, forecasts, and internal confidence signals taking positions before the public narrative fully catches up. And it's not just one lane of proof either. It's multiple lanes firing at once. The trading card market is one kind of signal because collectors don't grade cards for fun. They do it because they believe demand will hold. Corporate investments are another signal because executives don't buy at that scale unless they believe the story is turning. And product strategy is its own signal because brands don't build signature tech for athletes they plan to treat like a short-term moment. All of that points in the same direction. The next wave is already forming. It's not a question of if attention returns. It's how big it gets when the machine goes fully live again. And if you've been paying attention, you already know what that next wave looks like. Bigger crowds in bigger buildings, more games pushed into prime TV windows, more national broadcasts that networks refuse to risk missing, more sponsorship deals tied to individual moments, like a return game or a signature shoe launch, more cameras, more microphones, more people trying to pull her into every storyline, whether she asks for it or not. That also means more pressure, more scrutiny, more critics trying to poke holes in everything. More opponents turning every matchup into a personal statement. More expectations that she has to meet every single night because once the audience gets used to the show, they demand the show. And the reason this keeps building is because Caitlyn has already proven she can handle the spotlight without shrinking. She doesn't fold when the arena gets loud. She doesn't disappear when the moment gets heavy. She's shown she can keep producing when the noise rises, and that's exactly why brands and broadcasters feel safe attaching themselves to her. They said it would die down, and it didn't. They said missing time would kill her momentum, and it didn't. They said the hype was fragile, and it wasn't. The Caitlyn Clark effect isn't over. It's not even close to over, and the next wave is going to hit harder because now the entire business side is preparing for it in advance.